Now,
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
Good morning. It's Friday morning. We made it. 6:07 WMAL News Talk 105.9. It is O'Connor and Company. Patrice Onwuka every Friday as usual, and I'm joined by Andrew Langer today. Happy Friday, Andrew.
Happy Friday, Patrice. I'm so looking forward to this weekend.
Me too. Me too. We'll get into it later, but we've got a lot of guests coming up today at 6:35. Katharine Ham, good friend, former morning show host, Fox News contributor. She's also on the board of Travis Manion Foundation. She'll be joining us. 7:05, Hans von Spakovsky, manager of the Election Law Initiative, Reform Initiative at Heritage Foundation. He has a lot to weigh in on in the Georgia case and everything else going on. 7:35, Bram Weinstein, play-by-play announcer for the Washington Commanders. He's going to break down or preview this week's game. 8:05, Gregory Pemberton, head of the D.C. Police Union. 8:35, Brett Baer, our friend from Fox News, will be dropping in too. But we're going to be kicking off this big hour with Jason Johnson. He's the president of the Law Enforcement Legal Defense Fund, LELDF, also an attorney and former police executive. Jason, welcome to the program.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
Great to have you. Well, we've got here a pretty shocking case. A former D.C. police officer is now sentenced to 5.5 years in prison for a police chase that killed Karen Hilton Brown. This case, we covered it a little bit more earlier this morning. This was a low-speed chase, so to speak. This 20-year-old was on a moped, was riding on the sidewalk, did not have a helmet, and was hit by a different car, not by the police officer in this case. But this police officer has been charged and sentenced now to 5.5 years in prison. Tell us about your involvement in this case and what you're trying to do, and also just your thoughts on him being sentenced to 5.5 years in prison.
Sure, thank you. So first of all, let me just say that the Law Enforcement Legal Defense Fund, the organization that I'm privileged to lead, has been around for 30 years now, and we're a nonprofit. A significant part of what we do is to help raise money to support the legal defense of law enforcement officers who are wrongly charged with crimes, as these officers were, Officer Sutton and Lieutenant Zabasky. We became involved actually after those officers were convicted in federal court. This is going back a couple of years now.
Okay.
Our main goal now, and I'll turn to the sentencing in a moment, but our main goal now is to make sure that Officer Sutton gets justice in the appellate courts, because he certainly did not get justice in the trial courts. So this case, as you outlined, involves, first of all, Karan Hilton Brown is a verified gang member of the Kennedy Street crew, violent history, has been arrested several times in the past by Officer Sutton himself. He was operating a moped or a scooter, one of those publicly available conveyances that are in the city. He was spotted by Officer Sutton, Officer Sutton had been previously alerted that Mr. Hilton Brown might be in the area looking for retaliation. And there's a long story behind that we probably don't have time to get into, but so it wasn't just a random traffic stop, although Officer Sutton did note that Hilton Brown was not wearing a helmet, he was riding on the sidewalk. Both of those things are against the law in D.C. Those are probable cause to make a stop, which he attempted to do. Hilton Brown takes off. Now, you say low speed. It was a low speed. Those vehicles will only travel, maybe 25 up to 30 miles an hour. So we're not talking about a high speed chase in and out of traffic or anything like that. And it lasted for about 3 minutes. And then the most important thing here, and I think that this is the part that sometimes gets buried in coverage of this case, is that Hilton Brown pulled in front of a civilian vehicle that struck him. That's what killed him. So he wasn't killed by police. No police officer struck him or used force of any kind. And the other important thing to note is that this case is a murder case. That's what Officer Terrence Sutton was convicted of, is murder. Wow. And so he did not cause the death, and that's a key thing in a murder case. The person charged has to have caused the death of a person, and it didn't happen here. And so that's why This is it's an outrageous,
and also
unprecedented.
And I'm sorry, Jason. I mean, the other aspect of this is to be charged with murder, right? This is the way I understand the elements of what makes something criminal, right? And here there has to be some kind of an intent. You had to know that what you were doing was going to kill the person. That's the thing that gets me here. And this is listen, by the way, I got my jury summons for federal district court. I'm all in, I want to go do this. Don't want to do it when they want me to do it, but I want to do it for this very reason, is that we seem to have completely lost the concept of intent when we're talking about criminality here, which is, again, through the looking glass. Your thoughts here on this?
Well, the rules are, here's the problem. The rules are different when it comes to law enforcement officers. And this is something that I don't think, most average citizens aren't monitoring this because they just don't have time to look at the details of these cases. And we're seeing this play out across the country where prosecutors and courts are extending a much different version of justice to law enforcement officers. They're just responding to calls from a small segment of the public that wants a pound of flesh from law enforcement no matter what. And that's what led to this case. There's just no question about it. This case arose in the same year as the death of George Floyd. There was lots of vitriol and everything around police, and the U.S. Attorney's Office went after Terrence Sutton and Andrew Zabowski with reckless abandon, didn't care about the law, and here we are. And it's amazing that we're actually here. You could see them bringing charges unjustly, which they did, to obtain a conviction for murder. It's just outrageous.
Right.
We're speaking right now with Jason Johnson, president of the Law Enforcement Legal Defense Fund. What kind of impact is this having on police forces nationwide? I can imagine it has to be having a chilling effect if you are have to look over your shoulder and fear a murder charge for just simply trying to keep the public safe.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. Law enforcement officers are not going to attempt to enforce the law if doing so is going to result in a murder charge. So officers here in the district are most acutely aware of this because many of them know Officer Sutton, Lieutenant Zabowski. They know these are good cops. They weren't out there doing anything wrong. It's the old nobody likes bad cops, right? So even cops don't like bad cops, but they're not. These guys were incredible. If you sat through their sentencing hearing and listened to not only other police officers but civilians come up and talk about how they did decades police officers. Terrence Sutton had previously been a District of Columbia Officer of the Year. I mean, these are great. These are really decorated cops. So other officers that see this happening understand they're not protected.
That's right.
And just an effort to enforce the law could result in this.
Well, Jason, thank you so much. We have to leave it there, but where can folks find out more about the Law Enforcement Legal Defense Fund?
Yeah, so probably our website, it's policedefense.org. We're also very, very active on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, or X.
All right, terrific. Thank you so much, Jason Johnson. Thank you for your time, and folks can go to the website or your X.com post to learn more about it. Right now, we're going to leave it there at 6:15. All right, so Andrew, we've got the head of the Justice Department, Attorney General Merrick Garland, took to the podium yesterday to have a press conference. You would have thought that he was going to announce the capture of some terrorists, maybe who knows what he would have announced, but instead what he gave us was his commitment to the DOJ reaffirming its norms despite series of controversies. He's in essence claiming that the DOJ will not be weaponized under his now or going forward, and that he's putting certain measures in place to protect the DOJ.
Sure, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. No, blind nod's as good as a wink to a blind bat. No, please keep. This is me interrupting you. Just go right ahead.
Well, okay, let's listen to what he had to say. Michael, can we play cut 5?
Over the past 3.5 years, there has been an escalation of attacks on the Justice Department's career lawyers, agents, and other personnel that go far beyond scrutiny, criticism, and legitimate and necessary oversight of our work. These attacks have come in the form of conspiracy theories, dangerous falsehoods, efforts to bully and intimidate career public servants, by repeatedly and publicly singling them out and threats of actual violence.
All right, we can end
Through
it there.
your work.
This makes me angry to hear this.
Yes.
I mean, listen, I was going to make a joke about sort of the Jedi mind trick, and you just don't look here. These are not the George you're looking for. We're doing this. When you have several senior Justice Department officials conspiring in the summer of 2016 to go after and investigate. I'm sorry. Let me take it even a step further. When you have a senior Justice Department official whose wife, who's a former CIA case officer, running a former British spy compiling dirt on one of the major presidential candidates, when you have a meeting between the Attorney General of the United States and the husband of a presidential candidate on a tarmac, and miraculously days later, the Justice Department switches their investigation from her to her opponent in the political election, it's somehow now you got I almost dropped the F-bomb. The Attorney General saying that it's dangerous and outrageous to criticize the Justice Department? In what universe is this guy living? Sorry.
Just imagine if he was on the Supreme Court right now. I mean, just imagine if he was. But, like, listen, the DOJ. We could look at all of the failures of the DOJ that obviously are politically motivated. Failing to slow walking the trial of a man accused of seeking to kill Justice Brett Kavanaugh. We remember the harassment against conservative justices at their homes.
Right.
Meanwhile, the people who are getting harassed were parents speaking up at school rallies or school board meetings to vent their concerns about how their children were being treated and the education that they were receiving. I mean, this is absolute gaslighting.
100%. The definition of.
The fact that he wants us to believe that any sort of criticism, skepticism, scrutiny of the DOJ is somehow wrong and baseless and personal and dangerous is their just way of trying to use the race card. They don't have a race card to play, so they'll use this is baseless. These are baseless attacks. I
had quipped way back when that Donald Trump should have appointed Merrick Garland to the Supreme Court. In the wake of him not getting on the Supreme Court the first time,
under Obama.
because that would have shut up them. And by the way, Merrick Garland would have been made toxic as a result of this. The left would never have wanted to touch Merrick Garland. But and I think some of this would have been neutralized. That being said, I do like the fact that there is a 6-3 conservative majority on the high court. I would not trade that for anything in the world. Well, maybe not having a gaslighting attorney general. Now that I say this, but the reality is, you're right. It's not just the lawfare against Donald Trump, but when you have a SWAT team showing up at the home of a pro-life activist after charges have been dropped against him by the local Philadelphia prosecutor for defending his son, there's clearly something at work here.
Oh, it's obviously it's politics, and they know that the heat and the amount of oversight that's been placed on Merrick Garland, the DOJ, and sundry of these other agencies,
right?
Because we have had a Republican slim majority in the House, they don't like that kind of heat, which tells us all the more reason why we've got to make sure that the heat continues. All right, well, we've got plenty more to get to. Our heat will continue. Yeah. We've got lots of heat. Our heat will continue. It's 6:22 on WMAL.
Now
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:37 WMAL. Larry O'Connor and Company. WMAL 105.9. Good Friday morning to all. It's Patrice Onwuka. I'm here every Friday. And Andrew Langer is here in for Larry. One final Friday with us, Andrew.
Final Friday, and I really could go for a thing of fries right now. Or one of those McDonald's hash browns. I could go for one of those right now.
You're making us hungry.
Yes, believe me.
It's 6:30 in the morning. We're hungry, but we've got a lot to get to this morning. 7:05, we've got Hans von Spakovsky, Heritage Foundation, weighing in on a lot of the election news we've had coming up and some of the Trump cases. 7:35, Bram Weinstein, play-by-play announcer for the Washington Commanders. He's going to preview this weekend's game. 8:05, Gregory Pemberton, head of the D.C. Police Union. And 8:35, our friend from Fox News Channel, Brett Baer, will be stopping by. But we also have a great friend of the show, former WMAL morning show host, Mary Katharine Ham. She's also the Outkick columnist and a Fox News contributor, as well as a board member of the Travis Manion Foundation. Good morning, Mary Katharine.
Good morning, guys.
Hey.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. You should have gotten a biscuit before you got to work. You just got to stop on the way.
I know.
Well, yes, but MK, listen, did you ever get the Desitin out of your son's hair? That's the question that's on my mind this morning.
I did. There's a hack. Just like a little Exxon Valdez duck, you got to put Dawn in their hair. And
there you go.
Oh.
Then you can clean it out. Yep.
Oh, my goodness.
Now I know.
Good to know. And
maybe you can be in one of their ads. Well, all right, so Mary Katharine, we would love to get your take on not just the debate this week, but really the fallout from it. Apparently, Mark Penn, former Clinton alum, he's saying that now ABC should be investigated because perhaps there was some sort of collusion against President Trump between the ABC and some of the hosts. What do you make of all of this? Do you think there was some collusion on the part of ABC and hosts just to take down Trump?
Oh, that's very interesting that Mark Penn said that. I had not heard that. Look, I think they were heinous, I guess is the word. They were really, really awful. And every single question was designed to lift her and then pivot everything to any liability that Trump had. That being said, I do want to say Trump missed an opportunity. There were so many moments where he could have just reverse tomahawk dunked on her about this economy and about her record that he let lie because she was pretty good at distracting him with things that distract him. Mm-hmm. And that was a missed opportunity that he could have overcome. However, he was also being the moderator for half the debate because he was asking her questions. There was a great moment where he asked her, okay, well, you didn't answer the question about limitations on abortion. So is it 7, 8, 9 months? And she doesn't answer again. And the moderators aren't interested in pressing her for an answer. So they don't. But it was one of the worst performances I've ever seen from moderators, and it was very noticeable because I think Jake Tapper and Dana Bash in June were so good because they were so hands-off.
Right.
They asked tough questions, they asked some follow-ups, but they did not insert themselves into the conversation.
Yeah, it was a situation in which Kamala was lobbed a softball question. She gave a softball answer, then tacked on a barb and expected Trump to take the bait, and in many cases he did. But let me ask you this. I mean, it's astounding to me. No bounce, or at least as we can tell so far, no bounce for Kamala in the polls as a result of this. Trump actually gained on the economy. We had the Reuters story, 6 out of 10 of their undecideds going for Trump as a result of that debate. What do you make of that?
So my thought on this is that she had to pass a plausibility bar, right? Because people want to see her as plausible as president. And plausible as a different kind of president than the administration she's currently in, right? I think she passed the plausibility bar for just kind of looking like she could stand there and seem like a person who does that job, right? She did not the word salad was not terrible because she was treated with kid gloves, etc. He has a different bar. All of his liabilities are baked in, and his plausibility bar isn't there. You know why? Because he's plausible as president because he was already president.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
That's right.
So I think that is part of what's happening here. And voters keep saying, independent voters in particular, I want to know more about her. And she won't give them anything because she's incapable of giving them anything without spurning the entire record of the Biden administration.
Yeah.
And she's incapable of giving them anything without doing the word salad. So they just get a couple of sentences repeated, and maybe that's not enough for them.
Well, and it may be also that she doesn't want to reveal who she really is. I mean, she says that she has not left her values behind, but, her policy flip-flops have been, astounding. So we don't really know who the real Kamala Harris is. Now, that said, do you think President Trump has anything to lose in doing a third debate versus what she has to gain doing a third debate?
My take on this yesterday, and I'll see if my thoughts change on this as we go through the news cycle, is that probably one's not happening, because I don't think he did a great job. I think probably he knows that somewhere down deep inside. And I think she's so risk averse that maybe they don't do this again.
Okay.
That would be my thought.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to leave it there, Mary Katharine Ham. But tomorrow, Sunday, September 15th in Annapolis, you've got the 9/11 Heroes Run. Can you just give us a quick plug for that?
Yeah, so I'm on the board of the Travis Manion Foundation, and we have these 9/11 Heroes Runs all over the country. You can sign up at 911heroesrun.com. There are 5Ks. There's one in Annapolis this Sunday. There's one in Oakton, Virginia next Sunday that I will be at, that I'm planning. We would love you to join us. It's a great family-friendly, super patriotic event where civilians get together with the families of the fallen, veterans, those who've served, and first responders to honor all that happened on 9/11, those we lost and those who served after it. It's 911heroesrun.com. You will have a blast with us. The Travis Manion Foundation attracts the most fun people. It's a great thing to bring kids to. I'm forcing my children to run a 5K. They're going to be fine. They're going to do a great job. And
It's
you guys,
3 miles. It's okay.
Yeah, they can handle it. And you guys should really get out with us. It's really it's a super group of people. So 911heroesrun.com if you want to sign up and join me in Oakton.
All right, terrific. Well, folks know where to go. 911heroesrun.com to learn more this Sunday, next Sunday, Annapolis and Virginia. Thank you so much, Mary Katharine.
Thanks for having me, guys.
WMAL, making sense of the economy, because it's your money and your retirement. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
Oh, Loudoun County. Back again. We've got an interesting voter registration story here coming from a parent in Loudoun County, Andrew. This parent posted a post of a Virginia voter registration application. Okay, sounds normal, except the fact that this was given to this parent by the parent's 16-year-old daughter. And so that should raise red flags alone. You cannot vote if you are not 18 years old. And then the second flag is that this registration form came to her daughter from the daughter's teacher, who gave it to them in a hallway as part of a registration drive to get teens to register to vote. Does this sound crazy to you, or is it just me?
Well, listen, here's the thing. I know that in Virginia you can pre-register to vote at the age of 16, right?
Okay.
There's a thing you can pre-register. You're not allowed to vote until you're 18. I always thought it was you can't do it before a major election, right? You had to do it if there's a major election is occurring after you turn 18.
Yes.
You can do it then. But I'm looking at this National Conference of State Legislatures website. 18 states in Washington, D.C. permit pre-registration beginning at 16 years old. What I don't like about this is that it's a teacher, the teacher being insistent, and if the story is correct, and I have no reason to doubt that it's not correct, insisting that the teenager complete the form without having a discussion with their parents first. That's a problem, right? I get this issue of this move by the left to get teens to register to vote. We know that as a result of Taylor Swift's announcement the other night, there have been a huge uptick in voter registrations amongst Swifties, I suppose. But the reality is, teachers should not be bringing their politics and their political agendas into schools. This is part of it. Listen, if there's a student group that wants to do this, right? Let's even say that it's a group of young Democrats, a group of young Republicans that wants to engage in a student voter registration drive. That's fine, but no student should be forced to fill out a government form without being able to go and talk to their parents first.
You know, the responses on social media to this actually harken exactly what you're saying. One person, the Real Parents of Loudoun County, shout out to them. It's not right. The teacher in school need to be reported. Feel free to DM me or have your source DM me. Let's see, another, go talk with that teacher immediately, and the principal, county board of elections, police or sheriff, and maybe the state director of public instruction. Ask other parents too. The teacher is trying to commit some crimes potentially. But you raise a great point, which is that their teachers are putting pressure on kids, and the students are absolutely right to stand up and not just bend to that pressure in the moment, but actually to say, you know what, let me discuss this with my parents. That is what needs to be done. That parent is doing the right thing with this kid. It is 6:52. We're actually going to have Hans von Spakovsky on. We might ask him about this and just a lot of other election stuff coming up at 7:05. But it is 6:52 right now on O'Connor and Company at WMAL.